Using your expertise in the financial services and industry, we just start up our discussion by talking about the financial literacy, the main essence, the most importance for us to build this kind of good, ideal, established industry in the financial services. Ideally, how should we define the word financial literacy? And using your experience as well, how do you see the literacy on the financial aspect growth in Indonesia?
All right, so financial literacy is actually one of the most important things for whole financial industry and also for the fintech industry. As you see the data, what happens is the people who are not literate financially, which primarily means that do they understand the responsibility of managing the money, how to manage the money, how should they save, and how should they spend, planning their cash flow. Those are the kind of things which primarily is associated with financial literacy. When they go to any financial channel, do they understand what they are dealing with, what's the rate, what they are going to pay, because the rates are mentioned in very different ways. Do they understand that they have the possibility to access a channel? So that's when the financial literacy is low, that's where you'll see financial inclusion is low, because people do not know which channels to go for.
Right.
The way fintech industry can help, and which is happening around the globe, one of the key, like which we have seen, is through the emails and all technology helps in financial literacy. But the very good thing which is happening is gamification.
Right.
That's one big change which is happening in the industry to help the financial literacy. To give an example, there is an app called Unleash the Loot, Game Street, where the children of the age of 5 to 9 and the teenagers, they, while playing the game, understand how to set a goal, how much money they want to save, how to spend, and if they spend correctly, they get some points. So over the process of the game, they understand financial planning.
Right. How do you see this? Obstacles versus challenges, which one do you see it from Indonesia? How confident are you that soon we can grow this industry in more sophisticated way?
So before getting into that, just a very brief definition of the fintech.
Yeah.
Right? There are two different roles fintech plays based on the countries. It's a developed country or a developing economy. So if you see, the fintech industry started in developed world, and financial industry plus technology is known as fintech. But if you say all the banks and the financial institutions had adopted technology much long back. So they were adopted CRM and all long back. So what is the difference? The difference is the way it is delivered. So if in one word you have to define fintech, it's the redesigning of the financial services delivered in a redesigned way. That's fintech.
Yeah.
And that's mostly applicable for the developed world. But if you look at the developing economy like India, Indonesia and all, then the role of fintech is a bit different, because the basic financial services and products needs to be delivered by fintech. For an example, the basic product like lending, financial inclusion, right, payment services, these are the roles which fintech needs to play in this part of the world. Whereas if you will look at the US, UK and Europe, over there, the role which they need to provide is change in the experience. Same product, but change in the experience in redesigning the product.
Yeah. Since everything is started using your word from the developed market, developed world, how can we find the relevance? How can we create at least the similar demand in our market, since we should see it using different approaches, I believe.
Right. So the demand is huge already. If you see the financial inclusion demand, that's huge in Indonesia. Right? The number of banking population is not that high. It's around 36%. Even the unbanked population, financial inclusion wise, even lower than that. So as per the BI estimate, if you put a dollar amount to that, as of today itself, that's around $75 billion is the gap. So there is a big demand. So how fintech can play a role is by increasing the financial inclusion.
Right.
That's one of the key. And some basic services like mobile payments and all. These are the areas where fintech can play a good role in near future.
Mr. Vishal Tulsian, how do you see it? How do you respond to his statement when we talk about which going to be the best fitted fintech product in specific for Indonesian market? He just mentioned about the fintech lending might be the best fitted for Indonesian market. How do you take on this?
Right, fintech lending will be definitely one of the most important products, because there is a huge gap in the lending. So that I agree. In addition to that fintech lending, I see the other area is the payment. mobile payment. So these are the two areas. And financial literacy also, I see the fintech can play a role by, as I mentioned earlier, the gamification and type of apps and all. So these three areas combined should be in the near future where fintech can play a role in Indonesia.
How do you see it on the surveys when you talk about Indonesian market? Do you see that the shift are really there, the dependency of our market into the conventional product on the financing thing moving into this kind of fintech?
Shift is there. If you see the history of fintech, why fintech now, if you ask this question, and if you see that the shift, why the shift is taking place.
Yeah.
So the root is in 2008 banking crisis in US. So once the crisis took place, at that time the banks were under tremendous pressure because the government were bailing them out. So there were a lot of regulatory pressures, and they were busy in meeting with the compliance requirements,
right,
and lost their focus on innovation. At that point of time, the other thing which happened was the penetration of the smartphone and the apps. The app experience has changed the expectation of the customers. So customers started expecting a product in a different format, in much more simpler and convenient way. The speed requirement of the customer increased. Also at the same time, if you see, the technology improved a lot to handle a lot of data, which we call big data. Technology improvement plus app experience plus the banking crisis leading for the banks to take a back seat in innovation combined led rise to the fintech industry. So the experience of the customer has changed. So today if you see Indonesian customer, they are adopting to new technology, new app very, very fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So for them the expectation from the banking is the same, that they expect the same services from lending.
Yeah.
That if they want to lend, if they want to borrow, why should they go to a branch? They can do it over a phone.
Right.
And millennial
As simple as
consumers,
that.
correct. And millennial consumers, their experience, their demand is much different than the consumers of the past.
Yeah, speaking about shifting the behavior of the market, where are we now? Which phase are we going through at the moment, and where are we heading? Is it still that long way to go to build this kind of established market on the fintech?
So in this kind of industry, there is a hockey stick growth mostly expected because smartphone penetration is very high. So while it has taken off a bit slow, in most of the countries it has taken off slow in this part of the world, apart from if you see in the developed economy where the requirements are different. So over here I can understand the regulators have a requirement for financial inclusion first rather than just increasing the efficiency. So because of this, the moment, because of the smartphone penetration, as more and more companies get into it, even the banks, I see the banks would play a huge role because there is a good likelihood that they would link with the fintech companies. And once that starts happening, then the growth will be very fast.